Yeah, welcome everyone. Really great to see you again. This is our fourth meeting of Bioregional Thames already, yeah, which is amazing. Something that was just an idea, and yeah, it's happening four times, which is fantastic. Oh, here's Anthony as well. I'm just going to let him in. Welcome, Anthony. Good to
Afternoon.
see you. I was just getting started, just saying this is our fourth meeting, which is fantastic. Yeah, today is very relaxed again. I've got a few things to share, some updates. I'd love it if you've got any updates, or whatever you noticed, whatever you've been to, that might be relevant from where you are. Um, and then thinking about events that are coming up. Um, so I'm just going to share my screen just for a little bit. Okay, can I get some thumbs up? You can see my screen. Yeah, brilliant.
Where are they?
And yeah, I just want to start again with gratitude, which yeah, I continue to feel just by creating a container by a regional Thames. I keep finding out more and more people doing work and more connections. I'm very grateful for anyone here and anyone listening who keeps making connections and sending me bits of information as well. Yeah, so yeah, just always yeah, wonderful to discover more about people and what is actually happening in our bioregion. And yeah, this is all about bringing people together, seeing what happens from connecting us. Comes from a place of me deeply caring and deeply hurting about the place that I live, and yeah, just sensitive to people doing amazing work. And it is adding to that, seeing what comes from those connections, providing support in multiple ways to what people are already doing. And I'm very aware people are doing a lot, and for people who are working on the ground, they don't have time to join online, and yeah, and so this is a space that is yeah, tries and makes it accessible for people with their existing commitments. And it's a patient, long term approach where relationships are at the heart of the work. And as just as a reminder, this was inspired by Isabel Carlyle in South Devon. And this was the link that I shared last time. If people missed this, particularly people watching the recording, want to find out more about what we're doing if they're joining at this stage. Oh, and it's going to start the video. So just for today, I've got a short moment connecting to the River Thames. No otters today, Barbara, but yeah, someone else who is bursting into life at the moment, and then just some updates and some feedback on some events that have happened. And then I'd love it if you've got anything you'd love to share. Yeah, so yeah, today we've got Hawthorne as our I'm just going to let Trish in. Yeah, so I'm just invite you just to spend 20 seconds or so just connecting to this image of Hawthorne emerging on my walk along the River Thames, and just seeing what feelings show up in you, what thoughts, just seeing hawthorn leaves emerging now. So welcome, Trish. Yeah, you're very welcome. I just wondered, did anyone have anything that showed up in them? Any thoughts, feelings around hawthorns? Everyone else noticed hawthorn emerging and other plants.
Richard, I wrote it in the chat. After COVID, a healer friend of mine suggested that I drink awesome hibiscus tea for 6 weeks every day to clear the virus away. So it purifies.
Has anyone tried hawthorn tea? Yeah, I have. Because it is, Pete, do you want to say anything about hawthorn tea?
Yeah, well, I mean, I every, around the 1st of May, I mean, I always collect hawthorn flowers and I dry them and I make my batch of hawthorn tea every year. I've been doing that for years. So the hawthorn for me is always a blessing. Um, and One of the things that I remarked, I mean, particularly I think coming back to the UK after living in France for a long time, was just how much hawthorn there is. I mean, we could actually feed the entire country on hawthorn tea. Just when you look at, yeah, the hedgerows, all, they just blossom late April, early May, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, hawthorn is definitely one of my allies.
Mm, yeah, wonderful. And the
Richard, can I?
leaves. Yes,
Sorry.
please do, Barbara.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. I thought you'd finished on Hawthorne, but I jumped in too soon.
Yeah, did you want to say something about progress on the Pang?
No, well,
Oh,
sort of. You mentioned the otter, and then you came to me, and Rob and I were at a meeting last week, where somebody lives between the centre of Pangbourne, going north towards,
Shooters Hill.
yeah, on Shooters Hill. That's right. And they tell me that from their house they see an otter regularly, and
mm.
quite by chance they've christened it Barbara. So I had to share that with you. And they see it
Excellent.
regularly, regularly.
Yes, yes,
Mm.
yeah,
Was it?
wonderful.
Didn't you say it was actually a family?
Yeah,
Was
he
that?
said he's
Yeah,
got three young now, didn't he? Yeah,
yeah. And it reminded me. I sort of think I knew what they were called. That where they live, it's called a holt.
yeah,
If you'd asked me, I couldn't have told you. But when he said it, I thought, oh yes,
yeah,
that's right.
that's right. Yeah,
Mm, yeah,
An otter's holt.
yeah. And I remember like in Goring, just upriver from us, Steve Gotts, who's like local
yeah,
wildlife expert. Yeah,
mm,
yeah. He showed us on a walk where there was an otter holt just downstream of Goring Lock. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Fantastic
so,
knowledge.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah, yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, my last thing about hawthorn was the leaves and how they're known to lower blood pressure as well. And yeah, so been used as a traditional remedy for heart-related problems as well. So yeah, I have had a tea using the leaves, and yeah, did notice that lowering in blood pressure myself. Obviously, yeah, you got to be careful with that as well. But yeah, that's another experience I've had on a foraging uh, experience with some other people. Yeah,
I shall be
moving on to
hawthorn leaves in my salad when I next find some.
yes. Moving on, some events that have now passed was the progress on the Pang meeting with Action for the River Kennet. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that evening, but Barbara and Rob, I hear it was a packed event, lots of people. So yeah, just if you have something you can share from that for other people about the meeting, what you took away, what was helpful, how did people feel being there, yeah, what might flow from that. Yeah, I'd love it if you share.
It was a meeting with a lot of energy. And if you look at the program on the left there, you can see we had a lot of, I would have thought there might have even been more speakers than that. And they all presented some form of research that they'd been doing, which again amazed me and probably Rob as well, just how many people were doing studies on different things and what their backgrounds were. It was very, 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 very diverse. And of course, Sarah, who isn't here today, she did a little bit as well, which she did well. She hadn't been analysing any data, but she talked about her feelings and how she sees the pang very different from previously.
Yeah.
Just one comment that's I found a little bit frustrating. They talked in depth about their studies, and occasionally they'd done some monitoring, and the result was high. But for those of us who didn't understand the issue, we didn't know if high was good or bad. So that left me. Would you agree with that, Rob?
I did. And one thing that struck me, this sort of area seems to be littered with retired professors.
Yeah.
If you want a retired professor to throw a stone out the window, and this man was a retired microbiologist.
That's right. That's right.
And he was, as Barbara said, was looking at the various chemicals and various analysed various bits and pieces of invertebrates and so forth. And it was a little bit confusing. But I think what I took away from it certainly was that the pang is in reasonable health. It's not, you shouldn't be complacent, but it wasn't sort of dreadful. And it was the local connection. Actually, I did look up. There's 210 chalk streams, or it depends how you count them, but just over 200, of which 160 are in England, and of that, 47 run into the Thames. So, it's about a quarter of all the chalk streams in the world actually run into the Thames. So it's, they are interesting habitats. The other thing that came from was a bit further west towards Marlborough. There's a river, Ogbourne, which is a winterbourne, and it had been been turned into a canal. It's very straight, sort of drainage channel almost, and they had scraped out the original course in the meadow, and it was. I wouldn't say it was astonishing because I've seen these things happen before, but nature took over quite very, very quickly. They'd put bits of wood in there, they put tree trunks and so on to stop the flow, but nature sort of, water finds its own level, as they say. The water just moved in onto this meadow area. And as I say, it's a winterbourne, so it just sort of spread out, and there's these photographs of these very squelchy areas. If you look at the Action for River Kennet Facebook page, they've got photographs and all the rest of it of that. But it's very encouraging to see how quickly nature reinstated itself.
Mm. Yeah, it was fascinating actually to know how many people are doing so many diverse sorts of monitoring of the pang actually, and so to have many of them under one roof was a great meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, thank you both of you for giving some feedback about that. Yeah, the other event that happened was the talk at Hardwick, which I did on Thursday evening. That was really great to meet some people from Bioregional Thames in real life. Sarah was there. with her husband and her mother, and also Helen Gordon, who's up sort of between here and Oxford. She was there as well with her daughter, so it was lovely to see her in real life. And a mixture of people from the Hardwick estate were there as well, and some other local people who I've got no idea who they were as well. And yeah, so I started by sharing my story about how I got to this place, and then connected it with projects at Maple Durham Lock, which is the old derelict cafe just upriver from me in Purley, and yeah, and just seeing the potential for this being a really vibrant, connecting community space to bring lots of people together. Yeah, and there was support for this idea, which is really good. And I also linked it into Bioregional Thames as well, so how it's part of this bigger story as well. And in the room there were a couple of people who'd heard of bioregioning, so which is good. Miriam, who is the heir to the Hardwick estate, yeah, knew about bioregioning, and also Patrick, who is the founder of Hempton, the hemp growing cooperative there, knew of bioregioning as well. And I'm going to go back and see Patrick. I've never been to Hempton. I've walked past it, so I'm going to go back. I'm curious to find out more, because fibre is a really important part of bioregioning, and thinking about yeah, where we get our materials from, and as far as possible to look to yeah, get our materials from within our bioregion. So that was these events. And thinking about upcoming, and glad Anthony is here. We've got Singing to the Source and the Headwaters on the 23rd of March at noon. I've shared details in Anthony's website about the different locations that people can meet up at. I'm going to go to the source of the Thames at Thames Head, as I've never been there, and yeah, the River Thames is my river, so yeah, if people yeah, would like to, please do look on this. There are the names of people to email just to say you want to go, and they are going to be coordinating those different places. Yeah, is anyone here going, planning on going to any of these places?
I'm afraid I've got clashes with some of the main dates there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying hard to add the Windrush and the Thames, so two conversations happening there. But so yeah, great opportunity to come upstream beyond the Goring Gap.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm afraid I can't stay very long today, but
no, great, yeah, great that you're here, Anthony. Yeah, anyone else going or not able to go?
Not sure what I'm doing at the moment for the 23rd. I've just got quite a lot on in the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to see where I am, and I will probably make a last minute decision on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And yeah, the second event is a longer term, the 6 month learning journey that I was saying about with the design school for regenerating Earth. So it's on how to organize your bioregion. So if anyone is able to to join us, yeah, Pete will be there. Yeah, just be a great way to yeah, do some more organizing where we are in our place, and also, hi Mel, welcome, and also to connect with people all over the world, and just be inspired, encouraged by other people who are doing some amazing work. And some people have been doing it for a long time, and some people are in the same place, they're just starting out as well. So Yeah, just and for $5 a month, the 6 month journey, 6 month learning journey will cost you $30 or about £30, whereas usually you're talking over £1,000, £2,000 for like most learning journeys. So this is amazing value, and you'll get lots of inspiration in return. And then just to clarify, the hydrology talk by Mike Jones is going to be at our June meeting on the 3rd of June online. He will talk about the whole of the River Thames hydrology briefly, and then talk specifically about his current work on the River Churn. And then just an update from me on thinking about a gathering in person for the Thames bioregion. I'm thinking the weekend that the 10th and 11th of May. I just spoken to Julia at the Hardwick Estate, who is part of Path Hill Outdoors, thinking about what we could do. She's up for supporting a gathering there at Path Hill, and so looking to kayak, come down by boat from the Earth Trust. I also spoke with someone called Tony Caravan, who Daniel and Anthony will know, who has some good connections with the Earth Trust, and also Lukey, who Mel knows, lives on the Earth Trust site. So I'm hoping to weave something with the Earth Trust, then come to Hardwick, and then we moor up our kayaks, can hire them from just downriver from me, and if people don't want to kayak, they can find alternative ways there. And then we meet at Path Hill. We have some simple food, just maybe like a big one pot vegetarian dish, or vegan dish, and be able to gather around campfires there. They have some tents there that we could borrow if you don't have your own. You can even sleep in a hammock underneath the beech trees, which I did last year. And then we can continue on our journey the next day in towards Reading, where people can then make their own way home. Maybe connect with those community artists in Reading or Reading Abbey. I'm not quite sure what yet. So this is how it's developing from an idea, and just be wonderful to be together in person, and just to gather. If anyone wants to help me with any of that, be really grateful for that. Please do let me know. Yeah. So
for those of us who prefer more sedate transport or or dry transport, put it away, there is of course along that side of the river, there's a bridleway. So if you're coming by bike, that's quite easy. The other date I thought was on the 14th of June. There's the Pangbourne Fete, which is next to the river, in the river Pangbourne Meadows. And Pangbourne Sustainability usually has a table. So I don't know if, Richard, you were thinking of having any sort of presence or anything really. I mean, just a connection.
Yeah.
As it's particularly as it's by the river.
Yeah. No, I hadn't thought of that, Rob.
It's 14th of June anyway. You can pencil it in.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's been organised. Mostly the active members of PAWS are standing next to the recycling bins, saying you can't put that in there, put it in there. And it was very good actually, because the upshot is that the last year the Fate actually made money and they distributed it to the organisations and charities who had been there. And PAWS, I think it was a couple of £100, wasn't it, Barbara? Something like that.
I think 300.
300, wow.
Such as that.
To which we splashed out. I was all in favour of a fact-finding holiday to Rome or somewhere, but it's an apple press, so we will have our own Pangbourne apple press and possibly some Swift boxes. Everyone I've spoken to about Swift boxes have said, well, yes, I know someone who put one up and they've never seen a Swift. So I think we need to take expert advice before we locate them. But yes, we certainly will have the fruit press, which of course will be available for Pearlie to borrow.
Yeah, I've already booked it for our apple pressing on the 5th of October. So yeah, apple pressing is just great events, aren't they, for bringing people together.
Yes.
Children love it, all ages love it, and it's just a great.
And of course, the other thing is, sorry, just as you say about the pressing, where Paul's hold theirs is on the Maze. So I think with the event at Path Hill, I think it'd be good to direct people or alert them to the fact there's the Maze and Sundial at Whitchurch in the meadow there. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. I was there the other day, and I was taking photos of the Maze. So yeah. Anthony, do you need to go?
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Bye bye. Dan, Daniel, you're muted at the moment. Daniel, you're muted.
I was just waving to Anthony.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you. Does it? Yeah, the Maze is a place not many people know about. Do you want to say any more about the Maze, Rob?
I'll unmute. The people who put it together, and I can't remember the precise details, but one aspect of it I do remember. It was done in a scientific way, but in a very sort of make it up you go along way, because the way they did it was they actually just did put sticks in the ground, and obviously presumably they must have had accurate timepieces, but of course they've set it to summertime because obviously that's when most people will stand there. I can never remember. There we are, and I can never remember what you call that piece. The usually a piece of metal in the center that casts a shadow. It's a Greek word, not golem. It's something like that. Anyway, and you become it, and you have to stand on when you go there, you have to stand on a particular month. And obviously today you'll be an hour out. But it's lovely. You can walk around the maze, and some people have bought bricks and their names on them. And of course, because it's been there some time, some of the people whose names are on the bricks are no longer here. So it's a rather pleasant memorial to the local community. And it's just tucked away in a corner there, and people come along when we have apple pressing, and you get incredibly sticky fingers if you go apple pressing, I can tell you. And it's just children just run around. It's very safe. They can just sort of, and it's a very lovely space, and probably not used enough in a sense. As you say, not many people know of it. And it's there because somebody thought it would be a good idea. I don't think it's there for any other reason. It's just there because why not?
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks, Rob. Would anyone else like to give any updates? Mel, this is the first meeting that you've been able to join live. Do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself?
Sorry,
say how you ended up here.
Yes, I teach at Oxford Brookes University. I'm an architect. I did the regenerative development and design course with Regenesis a few years ago, and I ended up meeting some people like Helen, Gordon, and Lukey, who Richard mentioned earlier, who lives where does she live again? What's it called? The Earth Trust, on
On the
the Earth
Earth
Trust
Trust, yeah.
site. And I'm just interested in trying to see how to become part of a bioregional community. And obviously I live in Oxford, so I'm on the Thames. So I'm really interested in the relationship between Oxford, Oxfordshire and the Thames bioregion. And I teach regenerative development and design at Oxford Brookes through design processes with my students. So this year my students are in Oxford for undergrad and in Scotland in the masters, and we're looking at bioregioning as a way to kind of evolve design through architecture and buildings, but also with an awareness and an understanding of how to kind of nest every decision made through design process within the bigger bioregion. So I'm kind of interested in maybe looking to find grants and apply for funds that might be starting to map different ideas that might be interesting for designers, especially around materials and material choice. So and I think Richard did the TRP course many years ago, so we're kind of in the similar network. So that's how I came into the picture. But I'm only here today because normally I can't come on Tuesdays because I'm teaching, but I happen to be home today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're really glad you could make it today, Mel. So good
Thank
to
you,
see
Richard.
you. Yeah, yeah. Does anyone else like to yeah, share anything? Yeah, Daniel.
Just to repeat that the National Land Use Framework consultation ends on the 25th of April. It's a really long consultation. But that shouldn't put you off because the answer to almost every question is bioregioning. So it's a land use framework, and I haven't gone back to it, but I suspect that water isn't mentioned. So they haven't got a clue, basically. And the more people that mention bioregioning from different directions, it can be collective effort. I'm part of the Isabel's bioregioning community practice. We're meeting next Tuesday. I think Trish, I think it was you who wanted to join in, and I'm now slightly embarrassed that I might not have given you the contact details. But anybody who wants to join us will be very welcome. And Rufus, who is an extraordinarily energetic member of the Institute of Environmental Managers and Assessors, is very keen to talk to me, and we will put something together for that consultation. But it's a very important event because that land use framework has been promised for the last 4 or 5 years, and Labour have picked it up, run with it, and issued a long consultation. And it's an invitation. It's one of those things that if you don't do it now, they'll say, "Well, why didn't you?" So it doesn't matter if you feel it's an exercise in futility. Everybody who's interested in bioregioning, as Melissa said, is sort of a guiding principle for land use planning, land and water use planning. This is an opportunity not to be missed, I'm afraid. You'll get halfway through and you'll think it's a time for another cup of coffee, basically, and then another cup of coffee. I think it took me 5 hours and 4 sessions to get to the end of it. But the answer to every question is bioregioning, so it's a very simple thing to do. Cotswold Rivers Trust, I should mention, because they have a full-time employee, which not many campaigning and activist groups have. Nick, and I'm embarrassed to say, I think it was Clark, gave a really inspiring talk at the Oxford University's, sorry, Melissa, the other university in Oxford, there is one, Environmental Change Institute 2 weeks ago. And just as a takeaway from that, it's really interesting that he works mainly in the Windrush and the Evenlode, long way upstream from Pangbourne. And he said that Environment Agency, and they're really badly polluted, very badly polluted, and that's why Ash Smith at WASP, Windrush Against Sewage Pollution, is so angry. We won't go into the legal case that he's got embroiled in, but the Environment Agency has measured contemporaneously the water quality in Wallingford, and it does seem that most pollutants wash out. So what they find in Windrush and Evenlode is absent or very much diluted when it gets to Wallingford. I mean, there's an awful lot more water in Wallingford, so there's a dilution process. But he was slightly puzzled, and he wants to drill down on why One if it gets the all clear almost, and Windrush and even though certainly don't. And the other thing that's happening in my part of the world is the reservoir. Um, and some people who are interested in rivers and in favour of rivers actually approve of a thing like the reservoir because it can keep water levels up if you can have surplus in winter and put it back into the Thames in the summer. But I have to tell you, there's a lot of incredibly angry and anxious people very close to the potential reservoir who are doing their utmost to oppose it again. This is the third serious attempt. And it's got through the first stage. I think it's DEFRA who had the first licensing or consenting job, and they've approved their part of it. Now it's going to come down to a matter of detail. And if you wanted to, they could make a presentation if you wanted to hear more about the reservoir. I'm sure Derek Stork, who's been running GUARD, something against reservoir development, group against reservoir development, will be happy to keep us up to date. And that's all. I see Trish has appeared. Was it you who wanted to come next Tuesday, Trish? And I did or didn't give you the details?
Yes, please, Daniel. If you could send me the details, that'd be brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my update from Abingdon on Thames. I should say I took a bus ride, an hour and a half bus ride to Henley on Thames. And you can use these. Sorry, you can. I can at my age use these bus passes to track the river a little bit. And it was quite interesting at Henley how little the regatta obviously takes place there, but actually the town looks away from the river. It really has it's got the boathouses, and it has a rowing club, and it has a rowing museum which is about to go bust. But it's a bit like Abingdon. I think Abingdon relates to the Thames slightly better, but Henley doesn't. There's a fantastic stretch of the Thames, and the town, you wouldn't know that the Thames is there when you're in the town. So free bus pass for all. That's my next campaign.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And
Can I
just think,
sorry,
please, Barbara.
going on from you mentioning the Henley there, Laura isn't here today, is she?
No, she's training for she's swimming the Catalina Channel, which is off the coast of California in September, as part of her, swimming in 7 oceans to raise money for the Thames. So she's training this week.
I thought she was fantastic at our last meeting, and obviously with the email we've had from her about what she's got going, she's just been brilliant, hasn't she? And it's good to see what one person can do when they're feeling very, very determined, which she obviously is. So yeah, I enjoyed hearing her talk last time and also reading about her subsequently. So well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. I mean, I live obviously quite near Henley as well, and your observations about Henley, if you like, looking away from the river, I'd never really thought about it that way, but you have a point. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I was thinking that as you said that about the towns. I mean, Pangbourne. You go through Pangbourne, you wouldn't know it's on the Thames. Certainly, it's the main route, and I suppose because next to the river is the floodplain, and also in towns in general, and very often factories and businesses. I mean, Breakspear's next to, and then you had Huntley and Palmer's in Reading, which sort of cut off or sort of blocked the Thames away, away from the town itself. Of course, the irony is that you can't get to one of the large buildings that separates Reading from the River Thames is the headquarters of Thames Water. But enough of that.
Quite.
Lead into it.
Yeah. I noticed that myself as well, and I guess it's like thinking about bioregioning and the history of how, you know,
Yeah.
the rivers were transport, and then you've got the warehouses, you know, linked with the transport, and then they stay there, and then they are, you know, just big, you know, stainless steel corrugated iron buildings now. And yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of cutting us up from that. And my
It's
favorite place
quite,
to walk along the River Thames, you know, most people, you know, would forget the river is there, because it's got buildings, it's got the main train line, you know, cutting it off
yeah.
as well. So it's yeah, easy to see how it's been separated from us in lots of ways.
Yeah.
Funny, I mean, thinking about this because, you know, I mean, I lived in Paris for 20 years, and the relationship, particularly, I think, not sure exactly when, maybe from 2006 onwards, where I mean, they really moved towards what they called in the summer, they called Paris Plage. And so you have a lot of poor people in Paris who obviously are not able to go on holidays. And of course, you know, the holidays, it's very present in French culture. So the idea was really to turn the autoroute, which runs along the side of the Seine, into a kind of place where people could hang out. And it was very beautiful the way they did that, because it was very much oriented towards children. There were places, you know, there was, you know, they had kind of street architecture, so there were places where people could sit. There were places where you know, you could, you know, like you literally sort of recliners where people could just, you know, literally just hang out. And they would close this auto route running along the side of the Seine. I mean, you know, for I don't know, from sort of May until September, something like that. And so you know, there's so many people. I mean, it really created a kind of riverside, you know, a real riverside feeling, community. People were using it, all kinds of people. It wasn't, you know, people from all over from Paris using the metro, coming in from the buses, and so it was an incredibly democratic experience as well, I felt. It drove the motorists absolutely bonkers. They were furious because then you know, the main sort of autoroute, which took you very fast through the center of Paris, was closed. But I mean, Paris has actually done a huge amount in terms of, you know, for cycling, Vélib, you know, having these kind of communal things, and also really using the river in that way. And before Paris Plage, there was, you know, you've always got you know, to walk by, you know, on the quayside, on the riverside. You've always had narrow boats, Dutch barges moored, you know, from, you know, many of the areas. So, I mean, I used to walk along the quay. I mean, you know, it was just a favorite walk. And then you had communities as well, like the community at Bastille. So there was like a little marina where there were lots and lots of people, and that connected directly with the Seine. So, you know, and that again, it wasn't like I can't remember what it's called now in London. I mean, which is incredibly posh. You know, there's an area, I can't remember what it's called now, but I mean, like this marina, I mean, which is just like super chic. And again, it's totally, you know, sort of an elite sort of area. The Bastille, I mean, you know, you had little tiny boats. I mean, it was not dissimilar from where I am here, you know, in that sense, you know, little narrow boats, people, small yachts and things, people who lived aboard. And I really loved the way in which they kind of work with the river in a very positive and social way and inclusive way for children, for disabilities, for all kinds. You know, I found it very progressive, and I mean, we went there with my kids, you know, regularly. They loved it. It was, you know, very interesting.
There used to be a beach next to Tower Bridge. There's often now every now and again you see a black and white photo of it. I presume it was closed because of pollution. I I guess. It was there for some time. I mean, it wasn't a one-off. It was, I suppose it was too much trouble, really.
Yeah, and there used to be lots of Lidos as well up in Oxford. Right near me, you can see the steps, the concrete steps going down into the water for the Lido here, and in Reading as well, where there is a current Lido now, but it's in a fancy restaurant with a swimming pool in the middle. But the original Lido was in the river, which on that same location.
Well, when the posh restaurant reopened, I went along there with my wife, and we were sort of doing the old codger routine. Oh yes, I remember when it was just a council run open air swimming pool. And this is very sprightly woman. She's probably in her 80s at the time. This was probably about 10, 12 years ago when it opened. And she said it was the women's swimming pool, open air swimming, because it had a wall around it. And next door to where now's long gone, where some flats are, that was the men's one. And you could look as much if you care to do that sort of thing. But she said then, when she used it with the present Lido, it was just water diverted from the river. It was river water. There's no, it was just there's obviously a sluice or some sort, and the water just ran through, presumably a grill to keep out debris and wildlife. But it was very, very simple. Yeah, I mean, there was another one as well in Reading. There was another open air swimming pool, but away from the river. Yeah, but it's very nice.
Yeah. Has anyone got anything else they'd like to share? Yeah, Trish and I had a lovely conversation as like neighbouring bioregions. And, yeah, we hope to meet up on a walk, and just thinking we've got the Pilgrims Trail to Santiago de Compostela. You can start in Reading and then make your way all the way down to Southampton. So thinking about meeting somewhere on the trail, which would be lovely.
There's slightly away from the bioregional bit. There's sort of general environmental concerns. I went to a meeting last week with a group called Ethical Reading, and they're largely concerned. The focus is mostly on well-being in the workplace and such like. And there was most of the people there from various businesses in Reading, law firms and software companies and so forth, and what their policies were. But what was encouraging was that there was all this stuff going on. It may have, as I say, in a rather corporate setting, as you go, through Reading on the train, you see all these, as you say, Richard, these glass boxes. But those people they don't spend, one would hope, not all their time in these glass boxes. And there is a concern about, in the corporate sector, about the environment in the broader sense. Not everywhere, but it was, and I suppose it's a self-selecting group because they came to this particular meeting. But it was encouraging. It was very nice.
Yeah. Welcome, Marie-Michelle.
Hi, Richard.
Hello.
Sorry,
we are just.
I was hesitant to join right at the end like that, but I thought at the end I have to because I missed the beginning. I'm in Brazil, in Manaus, in the middle of the rainforest.
Yeah.
And just I thought, well, the Thames, the Amazon, they have something in common. I must join.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Marie-Jean. Yeah, I wondered where you might be. We were just having some just general updates today, really. And we've got some yeah some events where we can gather in real life coming up as well. The singing to the source and the headwaters on the 23rd of March. So we will be singing to the Thames, and we will also be singing to the Amazon as well, to connect. So,
I'm not back until the 4th of April, so the next one.
yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. And we've been
So
talking about yeah, Pete, sorry, please. Yeah.
I was just going to say I have one event coming up on the 10th. So this is with Sustainable Devices. They asked me to speak at Shurston on a local community meeting about climate and resilience. So I'm going to be talking about resilience in the Bristol Avon watershed, as they put it, microcosm to macrocosm. So trying to put that in a kind of more global, or at least Western Atlantic context. So I'm writing that at the moment. So I have a lot of work to do before the next couple of days, but that's really, really interesting. And from the research that I've been doing for that, there's a lot of really, really interesting work that's being done on Arctic warming, on the jet stream, on these, what's this called, a sort of whiplash, creating these isolated weather zones, also atmospheric rivers. I think one of the big take homes for me is seeing how much, for example, atmospheric rivers, we get these events, and everybody sort of goes, Sikua, crazy, it's absolutely, it's an absolute disaster. And we get this huge inundations. But when you look at the meteorological record, I mean, these rivers are there and they are well documented, and they ought to be part of our, daily approach to, watershed management and resilience. And what astonishes me is that every time this happens, people just go crazy, and and then there's all the flooding defenses and this, that, and the other. And really, I mean, this is so well known. The work is out there. It's so well documented, but it is just blocked. It's not getting through to the people who need to be taking action on the ground. So anyway, I mean, it's been really fascinating looking at that from the point of view of, as I say, the Bristol Avon, but looking, more generally at some of these sort of macro, phenomena which are impacting and which people need to really get on board with. It's absolutely crucial. Doing it is without ignoring that context is just like people blinding themselves and tying their hands behind their backs. And so, looking at the amount of flooding we get here, Chippenham, Bradford-on-Avon, Melksham, Dundee, it's just insane. And also the other thing that I was aware of, because I was just doing just some, Google Earth mapping of the Bristol Avon. I mean, you can see where it's farmed right up to the river. It's just insane, So there are some areas where there is actually a kind of wetland which is capable of absorption and of, absorbing some of this water. But there is so much where basically you can see the land is farmed right to the edge of the river. And then the farmers are going crazy because, half the time it's flooded, and there is no wetland development there, And this is all upstream of the places, of course, like, Bradford-on-Avon and Bath that get flooded, and, and then the press gets, everybody gets upset. But really, I mean, it's just beyond belief. I mean, I'm definitely not a professional of river restoration, but I mean, even when you go into this at my level, I mean, you wonder what on earth is going on. How is the disconnect so profound that people have not worked this stuff out? So anyway, I mean, it's a great opportunity to be able to put some of this material together, and so anyway, I'm really enjoying doing that. But it just, I think, whoa. But meteorology, climate science, oceanography, land management, bioregioning, watersheds. We need people, we need places where all those can really come together and those people are talking to each other, not like some, where all the weather people or the climate, the oceanographers. It's trying to bring that knowledge together in a connected way. It is super, super, super important. It ought to be possible. And I think one of the things that I'm also finding, which is brilliant, is that more and more scientific research is becoming open access. Not all. I mean, there are a lot of paywalls out there, which is a problem, but there is a lot more material which is available to, say, someone like me who doesn't have a university affiliation and therefore can't get, academic access to stuff, you know. And that is really, really important. It comes down to what Joe and Penny are talking about, particularly in some of Joe's seminars about knowledge commons. Because as soon as you put stuff behind the nature paywall or the science paywall or the Springer paywall, people cannot get that information. And it's really annoying. Like there's a book, 2 volumes about restoration on farmland at Oxford University Press behind their bleep 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 paywall. It's a pain in the freaking, it really blows me out because you can't get that information. I haven't got 150 quid to buy their books, you know and there is a real problem for getting that information out. There's a guy called MacDonald who's been doing amazing, restoration research. He's written so many books, but those books are just not available, you know and I think that, where we've talked about bioregional commons, knowledge commons in the design school, I mean, I think, academia has got to continue, has really got to step up now because it started and a lot of nature material is open source and a lot of science articles and blah, 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 which is brilliant. And there are a lot of scientists who are doing the community thing of, just quietly putting their papers up on, XYZ server that you can find if you sort of know your way around Google well enough. But really, we need that knowledge out there. And I mean, as an ex-academic, I mean, this just blows me out because it's taxpayers' money that's funding all those people, and that research is blocked by a certain number of companies who are making good money, and we need that information, you know. So that's my little. I mean, I get quite excited about that, but I mean, I can
That's
tell
your
you, I've
voice.
tried so hard to find some of these things, and I mean, like McDonald's book on the farmland restoration, it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I'll probably crack and try and find the money to buy it, but I mean, 150 quid, it's a lot of money, for someone who has an incredibly small budget for things. It's a huge, huge load, and when you can't get that information. There are brilliant articles in there. I mean, I found the contents. Someone put the contents up, and I mean, I can see how interesting it is. But I mean, again, it's really important. Farmers, conservation, dealing with problems about rivers, forest restoration. It's brilliant. It's a really important 2 volume set, but it's locked away. you know, it's crazy. So we have to break open these academic vaults.
Just on the farming point, the chap who runs the Cotswold Rivers Trust, he says a bunch of farmers are very concerned and cooperating. And if you ever speak to Ash Smith, who's running WASP, he's very slow to condemn the farmer, and he's very quick to condemn the Thames water, basically. The sewage is really what he's at. But the presentation from the Cotswold Rivers Trust, as you said, Pete, they show pictures of farming right up to the river edge, basically, and all the soil washing away.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling would be, and I mean, I'm think
I'm thinking that
with Elm, than the environmental land management, that if those farmers, for example, just to the west of Melksham, were able, with the aid of some beavers and, actually develop that wetland, they would obviously lose acreage for cropping, but money could be diverted that goes to actually sort of trying to drain Bradford-on-Avon. It could go to the farmers because they would be doing, not only would they be creating biodiversity through or encouraging biodiversity through building, really resilient wetlands, but they would also be reducing the flow of water into, for example, Bradford-on-Avon, which was really badly flooded this year and which causes massive damage in the town. And so, I mean, I think, and I'm sure, and I mean, MacDonald, I mean, from what I could see of his book, I mean, the farmers are absolutely concerned, and from many different points of view. It's just really interesting when you find people, who've been doing that work between farming and restoration, as opposed to, say, rewilders who are coming from a slightly different perspective. But you've got people who've got to make money off the land and, through their cropping and through what they can grow and sell. And so getting those people around the table, I think, there is a huge opportunity. There's a huge opportunity. And more sort of cross discussion between, between the rewilders, between the bioregioners, between the farmers, like what they're doing in Wiltshire in the what's it called, the Wye Valley corridor, which is a beautiful thing. It's partly run with Wiltshire Wildlife Trusts. So you've got a series of farmers around the what's it called, the Wiley. There's one. I mean, there's, yes, in southern Wiltshire. There's so the one river. They've managed to create a corridor of linked up farms, and they're really working with that now as a group. I'll see if I can find it and put a link in the chat, because it's a beautiful project. And it's really coordinated. They've got a beautiful corridor. It's absolutely stunning. I will see if I can find it quickly.
That'd be great. When I was talking to Tony Caravan this morning, he was talking about farm clusters and how there are more and more farm clusters working together. And when it comes to funding, farmers who are pooling that money and then working out how to divide it rather than just going on an individual basis. I guess if farmers were organising around landscape, that would be amazing. So Tony offered to connect me with someone who's connected with the farm clusters around the Earth Trust up near Benson, Wallingford area. So yeah, I'd love to explore that and connecting with what you're saying, Pete. There is so much potential from people working together. And I shared about the Event for Action for the River Kennet, the progress on the Pang here. They're a great organisation that works really well with lots of stakeholders. They work with lots of landowners. Some soil coming off farmers' lands, gets onto the road, goes into people's tires on their wheels, that's spread out, and then heavy rain, and all of that soil then washes down into the Pang and covers up the gravel areas, where the trout need it to be clear to spawn. So they've been they're working on tracking those sources of soil leaving land, and then they can go back and speak to the landowner, because the farmer doesn't want to lose their soil. So they've usually been able to come up with some ways then to help prevent that and work for the benefits of everyone. So amazing things can come from those small points of joined up thinking and working together.
Little comment, is it okay, Richard?
Please do, Maria Michelle.
From what Pete was talking about, it's not just the access to scientific papers, although I agree with you, the citizen science needs to grow. But then the jargon. The jargon is the next level of difficulty. And there's really a need to put ecological understanding ideas or understanding of any of the more discrete areas of science into terms that can be understood easily by the layperson and especially by the farmer. And I remember that being a problem all the time because talking to the farmers here in Colombia during the immersion reminded me talking to the pastoralists in Australia. They get wrong ideas very, very strongly because they observe something, they think they've understood one idea at least, and then they take off in one direction, but they haven't got the more complex understanding. They haven't got the context, you know, the more complex context. So there's just saying that there's a great need to translate complexity, to translate the understanding when all the disciplines come together, like you said, Pete, all of it coming together. So that was one thought. And the other was this, that the biosphere, in its attempt to regulate the effect of our presence, 8 billion of us there, doing what we do, is actually offering great opportunity with all this water coming in. Right now, there was just now here in Manaus, Amazon, a big downpour. I mean, the amount of water that falls in a few minutes is stupendous. And working with Will Masters on the tech thing, we talked about the methods in the past of traditional ecological knowledge on how people worked with water systems to make them more conducive to their needs, to produce more food, to grow their population, of course. And the gist of it is always slow it down, make it be absorbed, slow it down, make it be absorbed. And if that would become like maybe like a central understanding, that we have the opportunity to replenish aquifers, to grow again our store of fresh water, because you have to, obviously we all know that the moment it reaches the sea, that's it, it becomes salty. And then the soil would do the same with it. So then the next thought is, I remember all the time that when we hear about prehistoric man, you know, over 2,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago and millions before, we talk about the lacustrian civilizations. I remember the word because it means being near the river or being near the lakes. So we have always been near the water, be us humans, next to the river. Maybe, as Pete says, that's where comes our idea that we should always be right next to the river. You know, the great civilizations of the Nile and the Tigris and the Euphrates, they all relied on the ability of the river to bring fertility by flooding and depositing all these nutrients, soil on that. So there's a need to like hold back, because we need to let the rivers rebuild their meandering, rebuild their riverine ecology, forests, trees, beavers. Let the other species who do it better than us, like the beavers, have way more understanding of this than we are, right? They know instinctively, apparently, that by slowing down the river, all food problems and all their livelihood is solved, the problems are solved. So there's like a big, almost civilizational shift that needs to happen. That's it. That's my 3 thoughts from what Pete said. Of course, I didn't participate in the rest of the conversation. Okay.
Well, it is fantastic. Talking of beavers, that I mean that the government has finally gone ahead with they've taken away the blocks to beaver releases, and so I think that there are quite a few that are now planned that have been, which is excellent news. It's excellent news.
I mean, adopting the intelligence of other species, I think, is going to be very, very central. Right now, I see too much of the regeneration, including in Bioregional, relying on humans making decisions, humans doing things. For instance, they're moving tons of soil and trees and all that without using the mules, without using the equines. they have taken a very negative attitude with cattle because of the damage they do. And then people say, even in the group, Penny said, animals have destroyed the landscape. I objected. It's not animals, it's us. What we do with the animals. If we relied on their own intelligence, if cattle were free to roam, let us say, they would move way before they have exhausted the grazing area that they are in. So do horses. Now, horses are designed evolutionarily to move through a 4,000 square kilometer area, and they will only eat the best stuff and then move on. So I see that as a key now. I'm very keen on that. I see that as a key. My teacher, Dr. Mark Whittington, who is back in Exmoor, has talked about that all the time. Let us look at ethology. Let us look at cognitive understanding of other species. Let us, like in conversations, Dr. Kelly Whittington always refuses that we talk only about human affairs. She will insist that we talk about the minds and the doings of the other species on the farm, not just as it's so human-centered.
Yeah, there've been quite a few of the in the permaculture course that we've been doing. There've been quite a few videos on the role of animals and how the animals are worked into the system, whether it's ducks, chickens, whether it's goats, some sheep, some, some pigs, whatever. I mean, they're all brought in, and I love the way that the permaculture approach is integrating them completely with the project, and it's some of the videos that have been shared in the permaculture course have just been so brilliant. I just totally loved it, and it's really interesting what you say about that kind of thing. Kind of resistance to animals, and I really note that it's very very interesting indeed. Thank you for that.
Also, because we have to share. Right now, I think David Attenborough said something like the proportion of domestic animals to wild animals is something like 80 to 20, or maybe it's even bigger than that, right? So we are destroying the whole family of animals. And the first people of the Americas say that the moment they're all gone, we will die of a broken heart. We will. So it's becoming like really, really super important that we understand. And the other thing I saw on videos, particularly in Brazil, where they observe animals, they love animals very strongly in that culture, is that the wild animals are learning to adapt to us. And loads of stuff is happening between them and domestic animals. Friendships between cheetahs and little gazelles and all kinds of stuff you see online, It's just remarkable what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. It made me think
And
about something
observing,
else.
yeah.
Did you want to say something else, Maria?
Or in other words, the important idea is that our minds are working, but their minds are working. We need to enter into that connection between their minds because they're also thinking about what they see. It strikes me more and more when I meet a wild person, I call them a wild person, like I'm standing somewhere and bats are coming or an insect is coming. They're checking us out. They think about us. They react to us. They're equally intelligent to us. Tomorrow, I'm going to go and do an ayahuasca trip. I think I'm going to enter into all that much deeper. It's going to be very transformative, and I will share it with everybody on the school as much as I can.
Yeah, thank you. That would be fascinating. I was thinking about connecting what you were saying with something that Anna, who's part of our group, shared about the river Roding, which flows into the Thames, and the council, the council of let me just I just want to share my screen because I wrote it down on my screen. It was a longer post. It may be a bit small for people, but I will read it out. This was posted by Phoebe Tickle on LinkedIn, and it was about the river Roding given a voice. And she said 2 years ago in early 2023, the river Roding was given a voice. Using a process that was developed over years of careful experimentation called the Interspecies Council, people were brought together over weeks and then in person to represent the voice of the river in decision making. On a sunny spring day, the European eel, the fox, the butterfly, the soil, the reeds, and the river Roding herself gathered for a day on the riverbank, with squawks and rustles and drips and flaps, and wrote a pact for the future flourishing of the river Roding. Part of a larger rights of nature approach, the Interspecies Council aims to create transformative shifts in worldview, perspective, and empathy, and raises awareness of the need to include and represent the voices of all living creatures and nature and decisions that concern them. Today, 2 years later, the River Roding has a voice again. This time it's in its governance with a representative voice of the Roding on the Roding Beam and Ingrebourne Catchment Partnership. It's the first river to have a voice in this way. Imagination is transformed into action, and there has been a change in the governance of how the interests of the river are represented by human beings. This is such incredible news, and perhaps it's a signal that arts and community methods can help the rights of nature movement. Will Oliver, who co-hosts the Catchment Partnership, this sort of links with Paul Powsland. When we had Friends of the Thames and Laura join us last week, Laura is working with Paul Powsland on rights for the River Thames, and he's part of Lawyers for Nature. And it's also got DEFRA backing, the Department for Environment and et cetera, for this Interspecies Council. So I thought I would just share this that was sent with me, I don't know how people relate to that and how you relate to that, Marie-Angèle.
Brilliant.
Mm.
I'll look it up when I come back.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we've got about Peter, do you want to say something?
Well, just to say, I mean, apart from the fact that I absolutely love that, I'm going to look at it on LinkedIn afterwards. It's really exciting. But I mean, I think, and it's something that I think will influence the way I finish my talk. And I thank you for that because it is about remembering that the river is it's not just our stuff. You know, it's not just our stuff. And one of the things, like again, I mean, in the permaculture thing, I mean, when I'm thinking about, I mean, I'm working on this tiny, tiny, tiny piece of land by the boat, but how I develop a sort of wildflower garden for the bees, I'm trying to work out, I've started building a bee hotel. So like I'm thinking I'm trying to, find out, learn about what I need to do for that and how do I build that. And it's like this piece of land has to nourish all those insects. It has to nourish the bees. It has to, it's not just about the vegetables that maybe I'm going to grow. It's about how I return something, nourish all the passers-by, the bats, the birds that fly, the ducks who are, been sitting on my roof recently and doing their little dance. It's how we also return the land to the animals so that that it's cohabitation in the fullest sense of and that's something that again really came out of the permaculture approach. When we talked about fair share, I mean, it's like, how am I sharing this piece of land with the insects? This piece of land that doesn't belong to me, how am I sharing it with the insects? How am I sharing it with the bats? You know, we've got these insane lights. I'd like to take them all out with an air rifle, but I mean, you know, the problem is I can't, you know, and that's fair enough. I respect that, but they are absolutely destructive, you know, and they were put in for electrical efficiency, LED, they're absolutely horrendous ecologically. And, you know, I tried to speak with people about this, but it wasn't done with consultation with the animals. The animals did not have a voice. I tried to voice some of their concerns, but the concerns were economic, and they got a guy who came in and did it, and it was all done before anyone could discuss it, you know. But we have got the most ecologically unfriendly lighting in a place which is, you know, bordering the canal. There's so many creatures around here. It's just incredible. You know, we didn't think, you know, and it breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart because we could have done, and it probably would have even cost them less. You know, it's just being kind of connecting and caring and extending, just trying to do something for the animals before we do our own bloody stuff, you know, and just taking that little bit of time to think about them, basic generosity. And that's why here in your post, I mean, I love it. And I think the more we give the canal and the river and the forests, you know, their voice, the more we will hear it as well. You know, and for all those who speak up for the animals and for the insects and the bats and the creatures, you know, it's really powerful. David Attenborough, I mean, you know, I just weep when I listen to him. He is such a saint, that guy. He's so, you know, stood up for all the animals. So beautiful.
I mean, a great deal of that is connected to the Genesis book of the Sumerian Bible, that it was all created for us. And I think every one of us on the planet has that unconscious, subconscious. It's all created for us. That is going to be a tough one to change. The whole
Yeah.
creation was for us.
Yeah.
Can I just
Thank
add
you.
just quickly one thing? There's I don't know if anybody's read Braiding Sweetgrass, but there's a beautiful counter narrative to the Everything's for Us, the kind of more original people's kind of narrative. And I think it's a really hard journey we're on to try and change exactly what's made you so sad, Pete. It's this kind of idea that we are on this planet to subjugate all other species to our service. And I think it's a big, hard battle we've got to fight. But I think together we can probably make a really big difference if we just keep nurturing and caring for each other and for the species and the planet that desperately needs our help, our love and our care.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Mel. We've got about 2 minutes left, so I just wonder whether we could just go around, just give, you know, one or two words, just how we, how you feeling checking out from today. Yeah, I can start and I'll pass it on. I'm feeling continually connecting. Those are my 2 words, and I will pass it on to Trish.
Thank you, Richard. I would say, again, hopefully building relationships. And I will pass it on. Daniel, sorry, I've cut myself off too quickly.
So just back to your original picture of the hawthorn. It's the taking for granted. We take things for granted. We never actually stop and look. So you, with your lens, you just put that in front of us, and you see that beauty. But I must have passed that already this spring several times without stopping and looking. So we just have to stop and look. Rob?
Hi. Goes back to the meeting last week at Pangbourne about the pain, and when you go to these meetings, you tend to see the same old faces. Very nice, but you know, and the hall was full, really was full of people I'd never seen before, and I thought, well, they care. They've come out on a rather chilly evening to find out about what's going on in their local chalk stream, and it's rather encouraging. I mean, there's maybe they don't. don't do a great deal, but they care. And as you say, Richard, it all connects. There's a lot of us out there. We don't always know. I'll pass it on to Melissa.
Thanks, Rob. I would say for me, the two words are probably slowly connecting because I'm very slowly feeling into this group and I'm really, really enjoying meeting people for the first time today. So thank you for sharing today. And I'll pass it on to Marie-Angèle.
Thank you, Melissa. First of all, apologies for coming so late. I was it's like me coming back into the school because the immersion in biochar has been so intense and the traveling to South America. And I'm glad I did. My God, I'm so glad I did. Thank you all. I'm getting shivers here when I'm reconnecting with Great Britain. I think Great Britain has so much to offer the world because of this spirit of inquiry that has created the whole scientific endeavor, the great botanical gardens. And I think you don't realize, you guys, how much you have to offer the world. From the outside, it is still a beacon, a beacon.
Thank you, Marie-Angèle.
I pass on to who else hasn't spoken?
Pete.
Well, thank you, Marie-Angèle. And yeah, it's a big journey. It's the journey of our lives. It's the journey of our age. And I just feel I think that that this is, I mean, the défi and the challenge has never been so great, and it's interesting. I mean, as I've got older, I mean, this is the most exciting and the most passionate time of my life because of what we need to be doing now, and we need to be stepping up. When I was 20, I was living in a cloud. Maybe I had the youth and the energy, but I mean, this is the real stuff, and it's sort of every day I just feel more energized and more engaged and more passionate about you know all that we are doing and trying to support, and it's just amazing. So thank you, Richard, for convening this meeting and for holding the space for the Thames. Thank you, everyone. Really, really amazing. Barbara, I don't know if you're still with us.
Disappeared.
Maybe not. Doing her other things that she needed to do. So yeah, thank you, Barbara, as well for being here. Thank you, everyone. Okay, wait. Yeah, it looks as though Barbara's been outside in the sunshine. Brought the sun in. Thank you, everyone. We meet again on the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. Poisson d'avril. So yeah. Bye bye, everyone. Lots of love to you all. A bientôt.
A bientôt.